I'd like to thank the viewer that donated the wheels to this project. That was a very nice surprise. I don't have permission to say your name, but I appreciate you shaving 25 bucks at least off of this project. Hello, America. This is not my regular content, but I need a chicken tractor and I got to build a gate, so I'm making a video about it because I love my girls. Now, even if you're not building a door or a gate, I'm going to teach you a couple secrets that are going to blow your mind about gates. Because bolts, nuts, and screws are so expensive right now, we're going to use the minimum amount, and they'll be used to assemble panels. But to make the panels, you can use pre-manufactured dowel pins or a dowel rod and cut it down to size. To the right of your screen, you see two barrels above a collar next to a drill bit. Those two barrels allow magic to happen in the world of woodworking. Because we need some screws to get through this project, I did purchase 100 washers and 100 screws, and you'll see how we'll use those later. To show how these four panels came together. They're held together with a screw, but the panel itself is held together all with dowel rods. And then all the panels will be put together with a couple of screws on each panel. So now I need to build a gate to get in and out right in this area here. So I just took the actual dimensions of the inside of the square, the open area that I'm going to try and build a frame to fit inside. One side is a 1/4 inch taller than the other side. Oops. So I'm going to make my gate fit what I have, not what I had on paper. To keep this project super simple for you and me, I decided to just go with 90-degree angles, no 45s, no picture frame, just get her done. Now, I recommend you don't sit down and do the math to figure out how big each piece has got to be. Go in there and measure it, because as you're building, your measurements are going to get obscure as you're connecting pieces together. Things are going to change. So always go to the spot that you're working on and measure that. Don't worry what the theory said on paper in your original plan. We're past that. So this is the first corner that we're going to work on. Most people know what dowel rods are, how they work, but they don't know how to actually make one work. So this is how we do it. This particular drill bit that came with the kit with the two barrels and the collar, well, I lost the Allen key that came with it. I don't have the right size Allen key, but that's okay, because most carpenters would just grab a piece of tape and wrap it around the drill and go that deep. That's how deep I want to go for each one. The collar's not going to help me. So now I grab my two shorter pieces of wood, and those are the vertical pieces that you see on either end. Now I'm going to drill 2 holes in each one on both sides. So each piece of wood is going to have 4 holes. And you can do this part completely randomly, but the closest you get to center of that piece of wood, the less problems you're going to have on the next piece of wood. Here's where the first piece of magic comes in. Now we take those little barrels and we put them into the holes that we drilled. And now we're going to match this piece of wood up with the piece of wood that we want to connect it to. Press firmly and you will mark or score the piece of wood exactly where you want to put the center point of the drill bit. The biggest mistake you can make here is not holding your drill completely straight up and down. On an angle will make it difficult to get that dowel rod into both pieces of wood. Grab some wood glue. I prefer to use the green Durabond. It's only a couple cents more, and it's much better than the medium grade. Now keep in mind, if you want to cut a dowel rod into 1.5 inch lengths, or whatever your length is you choose to work with, keep in mind that a couple of the dowel rods I got were just as big as the bit, which made it difficult to get in there. If that's the case, you could aggressively sand down your dowel rod a bit, or you could take your drill bit and kind of work it in a circular motion to open up that hole just a bit. The glue will fill in the difference. Okay, the frame of your gate is done, and now you go back to fit it into the hole it's supposed to be in and say it doesn't fit. Don't think you did something wrong. Flip it around to find which way you measured. Remember, it wasn't all square. All your sides won't be square. Nothing's going to be square. And chances are, even adding this crossbar may change its being square. And we got a trick for that too. But now that my frame glue is dry, I took a couple pieces of scrap wood, put them up in the upper left-hand corner, lower right-hand corner, so I could fit a diagonal piece of wood of the same size underneath. Simply took a magic marker and marked exactly where I want to make my cuts on both sides. And now I'm going to go make my cuts, and this is going to fit damn near perfect. Both of these cuts are a little bit awkward, but they go quick. Okay, here's another one of those pitfalls. It looks like I'm quite a bit short, right? No, I just put it in the wrong direction. If I flip it in to fit this way, it is tight as a drum. To make this reach, I had to pull the drill bit out a bit to get the depth, and I had to switch over to dowel rods instead of using the short dowel pins because we're going through quite a bit of wood here. Now notice, I put glue over everything, I smash it in, and most importantly, get glue on both sides of wood because the glue will find its way to the other glue, but glue might not make contact with the other piece of wood unless you add a little glue to both pieces of wood. Okay, here we just flip it over and we do the exact same thing on the other side. Take your saw, lightly cut off the dowel rod. I had to sand it down. It was a little bit of a mess. Now I learned the lesson. It fits if you flip it. So here I am, after I already took my measurements, cut out what they call garden cloth. I call it fencing material, very fine squares. I'm flipping it around to make sure after I cut it perfectly that I'm putting it on the way I intended to. Now that I have that installed, now the garden cloth is not completely connected because I need to make it raccoon proof, but there are 8 screws holding the garden cloth to the gate. Because the screws and washers I used to connect the garden cloth are bulky, I had to shim the frame to get both pieces level so I could attach the hinges. Now I'm attaching the hinges in a primitive form. I'm not doing it the way you would in a house. Here's where most folks will mess up. The reason for the crossbar is to hold the gate square over time. You see how the crossbar is holding side of the gate that opens up. That piece of wood is pushing up on that corner so it doesn't droop. So we put the hinges on the side of the bar that's at the bottom where the support is. So after using my Neanderthal hand tools to build this chicken tractor, when I close the gate, it's touching in one spot. So I just rip out my handy dandy sander, and you may need a rasp. I just sand down until it opens and closes smoothly. Remember, you're gonna make this thing, then you're gonna paint this thing at least twice. The secret to carpentry is hiding or fixing your mistakes. Speaking of which, now I'm gonna take this big box store yardstick and use it as a back for the gate for 2 reasons. One, to cover the gap so raccoons don't get interested and start gnawing. 2, to stop the gate from swinging in and ripping slowly over time my hinges out. And you can also see exactly where I dropped this washer and screw to connect the garden cloth. And I will actually be using strips of wood much like this yardstick to go between those screws and secure that garden cloth better to the entire chicken tractor. Now, I'm sure everybody can put in one of these, but there's actually a trick in case you mess it up, it doesn't reach or it's too loose. there's something you could do to fix that. Turning this eyelet 45 degrees will either bring your hook closer to or farther away from the other eye hook. Hello, ladies. You want to party? Hey, redheaded step family. When I started this channel, I grossly underestimated America's ability to clean up all these little problems we got, and I thought this channel would be rocketing through the YouTube algorithms, gaining new viewers daily. But because 2,200 of you who were kind enough to subscribe here are still very wound up in the Intel portion of YouTube, I'm not getting the views. So the ad revenue is, I think I owe YouTube $9. I don't know how that works, but if you'd like to replace that YouTube money to finish this project that was intended to be done through YouTube money, please feel free to Zelle or PayPal, and those links are in the description and in the comments. And I'd also like to thank Paul Poe and someone else whose name I don't have the permission to use for your donations for last week when we went to go meet the truckers for the convoy. Peace and love worldwide. Live your life before your life lives you.
Hey, Jazzy, how you doing?
Hi, Uncle Ebony. I was just wondering, will I grow up to be a big, strong, Texas Jumbo Forever guitar pick just like you?
It doesn't matter how big you are, son. It matters what you're made of. And inside of you is some of the most exotic woods from across the world. Each exotic wood makes a completely different tone, and no string gnaws like plastic. If you don't agree that Forever Pick is the most awesome tone-producing, mind-twisting tool you've ever strummed across your strings, Luthier Robert S. Paul stands behind it. You get a full refund. Any other questions, Jazzy?
Yeah, why did Aunt Babinga get mad because you gave her crabs on her birthday?